We live in a time where masculinity is shamed and men don't know what it means to be a man. As a pastor and counselor, I've spent the better part of my life equipping and training others. My goal with this show is to translate my hard-earned experience into tools and tactics to help you become stronger as a man. This is the BraveCo podcast. I'm your host, Jason Vallotton. Welcome back, everyone, to the BraveCo podcast. This week, you got me, y'all. That's what we got. Now, I wanted to come and do an episode and talk about something that I don't often talk about here. I talk about it a lot on my podcast with my wife. It's called Dates, Mates, and Babies with the Vallottons, but we don't actually talk about it a lot. And so I wanted to talk about marriage and how to build a great marriage. And I'm going to talk about a certain aspect of how to build the emotional bank account of your marriage. You know, it's interesting. I've been doing tons of counseling this last year and just seeing so much breakthrough. This year, I've seen more breakthrough probably in the last year with married couples than I have any other time in my life. And part of that's just that I'm so focused on helping married couples. My wife and I have a marriage intensive that we've been doing. Last year, we did three or four of them, and just online, right? Watching couples come for 6 weeks, work on their marriage, and seeing the growth from start to finish. Looking at marriages that were suffering, that were failing, that were on the brink of divorce, and watching them turn things around. It's been really exciting. And then I've spent more time this year counseling couples than I have in the past. I just decided to open up 6 spots a month. And so it's been really cool. And I wanted to come and bring just a couple stories from what I've been seeing, but also give some pointers and help you guys build stronger, healthier marriages. If your marriage is strong, it's like you can endure anything in life. That's what it feels like. But if your marriage is suffering, it doesn't really matter how good work is going. You're going back home to a place that you feel so powerless. It's so painful. And I've been there. I had a marriage that failed. My first marriage failed. And I know what it's like to come home to a place that just feels so painful and so challenging. And I've also have a marriage that's really successful because my wife and I have poured so much time, effort, and energy into it. And so I can have a hard day at work and know, I'm coming home to a place that feels safe, that feels caring and loving and peaceful. And we have conflict, but the way that we do conflict is healthy and helpful. And that's really what I want for everyone, right? It's what we all want, is we want to be able to have a marriage and a life that we love. But the thing is we don't often think about who taught us how to do marriage, right? Who taught us how to build a happy, healthy marriage? And if you just think really quick, do you want to replicate what was taught to you growing up? I can look at my life and say, yes, I want to replicate the marriage that I saw my parents have. But when I ask this question, every year I ask this question, I ask it in the master classes that I lead. I also ask it in our marriage intensive, and it's wild. It's probably, I would say, like 2 out of 10 people. If I ask them, hey, do you want to replicate the marriage that you saw in your home? Most people don't want to. It was the yelling, the arguing, the disconnection, right? The selfishness. Maybe you grew up in a home where you didn't have a dad, or you grew up in a home where you didn't have a mom, or your parents aren't present. You know, there's so much pain and suffering inside of family, inside of marriage, that most people, what they saw, what they were taught is dysfunctional. And so if you weren't taught anything different, then we reproduce that, right? Like, think about the tools, think about the lessons that you were taught. What was the core lesson that you were taught about relationship, about marriage, about conflict growing up? That's probably, on a bad day, what you revert back to. And so unless we relearn how to do life, unless we relearn how to do conflict, unless we relearn and build some healthy tools for marriage, our marriages don't look any different, right? We can't expect to do something different than what you were taught. Whether you wanted to be taught that or not, you literally don't have the tools. And so, one of the things that I've been teaching couples a lot is how to fill up their emotional bank accounts. Now, think about when you started dating your wife. You started dating your wife because she was interesting to you, because there was something that attracted you to her, right? Like, when we date for the purpose of finding out, do I want to invest my entire life into you and me together, right? Marriage is an investment. You date to know, is this a good investment? Is this, if you are into crypto, if you're into the stock market, you don't just throw money into random cryptos or money into random stocks. You actually spend some time and you look at the history, you look at the potential, you look at what it's done. You read some you're dating that, right? You're dating that stock, you're dating that crypto, you're getting data. Right? Think about dating. You're getting data, you're getting information, and then going, how much do I want to go in? How much do I want to invest? Marriage is the same, right? Dating's the same. You're getting tons of data. You're going, let's try going out on a date. Let's try hanging out together. What is conflict like for us? How do we work through a hard time? How does it feel when I kiss you? How does it feel when I share my emotions with you, right? That's dating. You guys dated long enough. If you're married, if you're not married, stick with me because this podcast is going to help you a ton. But if you're married, you married that person because you got enough data that says spending your life with this person is going to be a great idea. And that's where we start, right? We start in to marriage going, man, your wedding day should be this incredibly exciting day because you get to partner yourself with someone that you have a lot of data on, that you have a lot of experience with, someone that brings you tons of joy, someone that feels like a best friend, someone that knows what it's like to do conflict well. And okay, so we all jump into marriage, at least most of us jump into marriage feeling super excited, with lots of hope, looking at our future going, man, this is going to be amazing. Well, part of what happens when you blend your life with someone is now you're having this experience that you've actually never had, right? We're living together. We're going poop in the same bathroom. We are looking at our finances together. We are seeing pain points that we haven't seen before. And for Lauren and I, that was no different, right? Like, dating was so much fun for Lauren and I. I just loved it. I mean, we spent almost every day together after the first time of going out together. Almost every day we spent time together. It was just amazing. We had the best time. And getting married, we blended a family. So getting married was day one was like, wow, this is a lot of work. The kids are asking her to, help them with homework. Our kids weren't great at school, so she had to really step in and help a lot there. The house had tons of needs, right? Like, I'm not great at doing laundry. I did my best, but Lauren stepped into a role and responsibility that she had never stepped into. And I am stepping into being a husband to a woman that I've never been a husband to. And right off the bat, you see like there's different pain points that you have than when we started dating. And over time, those pain points for a lot of people begin to create disconnection. Because again, if you don't have great tools to do conflict, marriage is full of conflict. Marriage is full of challenges. I just want to say this. It's not conflict that breaks marriage down. It's not conflict that harms or hurts us. It's how we do conflict. It's how we do conflict. This is really, really important. It's not conflict that breaks marriage down, that hurts us. It's how we do conflict. So if you do conflict, all of the research says that conflict is actually helpful and healthy for marriages. And you know that if you've been into a deep relationship before, if you have a friend, right? A best friend, best guy friend, and you go through a conflict, right? You have a struggle and you work through it and you do really good and he feels cared for and you feel cared for and you feel seen and respected. You actually trust that person more than if you never got into that conflict. Well, marriage is the same, right? You go through a hard time together, you have a disagreement, but you work through it with humility. You hear the other person. Your wife feels safe, seen, and known in that conflict. You feel respected. You feel cared for in that conflict. Guess what? You have just strengthened and reinforced your marriage. But if you don't do that, if you raise your voice in conflict, if you stonewall her, if you shut off your emotions, if you call names, if you, if you tear each other down, use disrespect and conflict, all of a sudden, what happens? Well, conflict becomes this place of pain instead of this trust building experience. And over time, month after month, year after year of not successfully connecting, not successfully solving conflict, not successfully caring for each other, we end up at this place where we don't have any more money in our emotional bank account. You guys understand that all of relationships have an emotional bank account. Or I should say, they all have a bank account. Emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually. We all have a bank account. Think about your best friend. Where's your bank account at with your best friend, right? Think about your marriage. Where's your bank account at with your wife? You go, well, what does that mean? Well, when you first get married, you have a lot in your emotional bank account. There's a lot to pull from because you should have spent lots of time going out on dates, lots of time saying, I care for you. I love you. You're important to me. Oh my gosh, I love how you dress. Wow, look at how good you look tonight. Thank you so much for going to work. You're amazing. You do that a lot dating. You spend tons of time pouring into one another, and there's a lot of capacity. Capacity for what? Capacity to do hard things, capacity to have some challenges come up. When we're married, we rely so much on that bank account to do what? To make withdrawals. So when we talk about our emotional, mental, physical, spiritual accounts, we're constantly depositing and making withdrawals. We're constantly doing that. Think about what it would have been a withdrawal this week with your wife, right? A withdrawal may have been something as simple as, hey, I really want to take some time this week and talk through what our plan is for parenting. You're like, ugh, that doesn't sound super fun, but it's really important, right? That could be a withdrawal. A withdrawal could be you confronting your wife on how she talked to you the night before. Hey, we had this conflict and actually I felt really disrespected. Can we talk about that again? That's a withdrawal. Now, it's not a negative, but it does withdraw. It takes emotional energy to have that conversation. A withdrawal can be you felt really irritated, right? Super irritated at the kids, super irritated at the way that your wife was handling the kids, and now you need to have a conversation about it. That's a withdrawal. We're constantly doing withdrawals. I mean, every day there's withdrawals that happen. Well, if you're not ever thinking through your deposits, then all we do in a marriage is withdraw, 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 withdraw. And it's not long before you are overdrawn. Think about your actual bank account that you have right now. How much money do you have in your bank account? Your bank account is never just equal. It's never static, right? I'm constantly depositing and withdrawing my own actual physical bank account that I have at Tri-Counties Bank here in Redding. I'm constantly depositing and withdrawing. And if I don't make sure that I'm depositing more than I'm withdrawing, then I end up bankrupt, don't I? And end up with no money left in the bank account. Okay. What am I talking about? People often say that, man, I just fell out of love, or I don't know, we just don't feel for each other like we used to. And the truth is that you don't fall into love or out of love, right? You don't fall into love. You don't accidentally fall into love. You create lots of deposits into your account. into your emotional, mental, physical, spiritual account with one another, right? You're making these deposits. That's what dating was. Lots and lots and lots of deposits. When you quit depositing and you start withdrawing, eventually you become bankrupt. And what humanity now says we fell out of love is actually bankruptcy. There's no more connection. We are disconnected. That's what happens. And so if you can withdraw and you can deposit, we need to know how, right? Think about if you had unlimited ability to put as much money in your actual physical bank account as you wanted to. All you had to do was be intentional. How much would you put in there? It's a great question. I mean, I would spend most of my day just depositing money into my bank account if all I had to do was be intentional. That's it. I could put 100 grand in today. All I had to do was be intentional. Well, your marriage, your account with your wife is exactly that. You can put in and invest as much as you want into that marriage. You could deposit as much as you want today. All you have to do is be intentional. You have to turn towards your partner. I know that this doesn't sound very profound, but this is honestly where I've seen the most breakthrough with couples that are struggling. The most. I've had, I don't know, it wouldn't be exaggerating if I've had 6 couples in the last 3 months that were on the brink of meltdown, breakdown, divorce, that were so wore out from their marriages, like done. And I sit and I listen to them and they have all these accusations, this is what he's been doing. This is what she's been doing. Like all this, so much disconnection, so much mistrust. And when I stop and I actually go, okay, hold on, wait a minute. Like it would take us a year to actually decipher who's wrong, who's right, to solve all the arguments in here. It would literally take me so long to divvy out each person's part. Like, okay, you've been doing this wrong and you've been doing this wrong. Literally where I've been starting with couples is going, how connected do you feel? How much money is in your bank account right now, emotionally? How much? If the answer is 0, if the answer is not a lot, then solving these arguments is pointless. Because when you're disconnected and you don't have any margin, what we do is we protect ourselves, right? We go into protection mode. And you've seen this before if you've been married. All it takes is a little disconnection, and now you're battling your partner in your mind. Now you're coming up with a rebuttal. Now you're protecting yourself from your spouse. It's what we do. It's human nature. And instead of our goal being connection, now the goal is protection. I'm protecting myself from her. I'm trying to win this argument, or she's trying to win this argument. Guys, what do we win when you win an argument? Have you ever thought about that? What do you win when you prove to your partner that you're right? If you have to prove to your partner that you're right in order to win, you're disconnected. You're living in disconnection, and that's a miserable marriage. We don't have to do that. What we want to do is we want to learn how to turn towards our partner and make massive deposits. Little by little by little, day in and day out. When I do that, what am I doing? I am saying to my spouse, you're valuable, you're important, I care for you. You mean something to me, and you are giving yourself something to withdraw. Now I can have a hard conversation because I've poured in so much into our relationship. Guys, this is the magic. It seems so small, seems so simple, doesn't seem like it'll work, but I'm literally turning like 10-year marriages that have been busted up, broken down. I'm turning them around in like almost no time, in a month, in 3 weeks, we're seeing so much results because people are starving. So here's how you do it. You make a reminder on your phone, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, to turn towards your partner, to not just think about them, but to make that deposit, that investment. How am I saying to my partner, you're important to me, your spouse, I care for you. You matter. The Gottman Institute is the foremost institute in marriage. They've done more studies, more science, more research around marriage than anybody else from our era, from our day and age. And even going to creating a love lab where they put sensors on couples, they mic them up, and they watch for months as they do relationships. Okay. So they talk about the importance of making these deposits into your relationship. They actually say that you need a 5-to-1 ratio in order to be a healthy couple. You have to pour in 5 positives to every 1 withdrawal, which is, honestly, I can confirm that. It's so true. So think about how often, right now, how often are you making deposits? What would a deposit be? A deposit would be anything where you are adding value, intentional value to your spouse. That's turning towards her, right? So when I turn towards Lauren, it can be as simple as me sending a text message that says, "Hey, I really care for you. Thank you so much for being an awesome wife. I really appreciate you." I often leave voice messages or voice notes, send her a voice text, just praying for her. "Hey, I wanted to pray for you today." The other day, instead of going home right away, I went to Rayleigh's and I picked up her favorite ice cream and some flowers for my daughter. That is, I'm adding value, right? I'm making a deposit into our account, our love account. And when Lauren comes home, I also want to pay attention to her bids for connection. What is a bid for connection? A bid for connection is her actually wooing or asking me to connect to her. It looks a lot like this. Lauren often comes home and she'll go, "Oh, I had such a long day today." Or I'll come home and she'll go, "Oh, the kids have been crazy." What's she really saying? She's saying, "I have a need," but she's not saying it with that clarity. She's saying, "Ooh, I'm really tired," or "I need a hug," or "I need some encouragement." When I get good at listening and looking for her bids for connection, all of a sudden I'm finding these places where she is reaching for me to come close to her, to pursue her with kindness, with love, with affirmation. When we miss our partner's bids for connection, it becomes a withdrawal. If I say to my wife, "Hey, check this out. Check out what I did." And she goes, I don't have time right now." What happens? That becomes a withdrawal. When I say, "Hey, can I share what happened at work today?" And she goes, not right now. I've got some other stuff that I have to do." It becomes a withdrawal. When I say, "Hey, babe, do you think that you can rub my back tonight?" And she goes, I'm too tired, babe." It becomes a withdrawal, right? So when we turn towards our partner, when I set reminders on my phone, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, so I don't have to remember, it becomes this thing now where I'm intentionally depositing. I'm intentionally putting into our relationship these deposits that now I have something to withdraw from. We all want to make withdrawals from our marriage. It would be impossible to think that you're going to go through the next week and not withdraw something. So the important thing is, man, you can turn your marriage around. You can take it from being exhausting, hard, frustrating to connected, fun, full of life, literally by changing your behavior. So I've had to tell couples a lot this past month, like, stop arguing. Don't argue all this week. I don't want you to fight about anything. What I want you to do is intentionally pour into one another. Well, what if we get into something that's really hard? Don't go into it. Put it on the shelf and pour into one another. Literally, don't make a withdrawal, because it's like this. It's like, don't go spend any more money if you don't have any money in your bank account. Well, what if I get hungry? Eat the stuff that you don't want to eat in your kitchen, in your cupboards. Okay. Don't buy any extra clothes. Wear the same clothes you've been wearing a long time. Wear those underwear that have holes in them. Wear your socks that don't feel super comfortable. Wear your shoes that are wearing out. Put money in your bank account so that you quit paying those expensive fees of being overdrawn, right? You're literally digging yourself a hole if you spend money that you don't have. The same is true in our marriage. If you are trying to solve conflict without any capacity, any emotional capacity in your love account, you're just wasting your time. You're ultimately going to argue over who's right. You're trying to win the argument. You're trying to prove that you matter, and that's not a relationship. That's a fight. So we need to just be super intentional, guys. If you can be super intentional and work on adding value into your relationship, pouring into that emotional bank account, watch what happens. Watch how much more connected your guys' relationship and marriage is. I just worked with a couple 2 days last week. They had been having a really hard time in the marriage, really hard time. They just got married a few months ago. And yet, even just getting married a few months ago, they're already at like, wow, level 10 of, I don't know if this is going to work. I'm really exhausted. Our marriage is going nowhere. I think we made a mistake. And after sitting down and going, hey, listen, what are you guys doing to invest in your marriage? What are you doing to turn towards one another? What are you doing to deposit love, care, connection, concern into your bank account? What are you doing for that? And realizing, oh my gosh, we haven't done it since the very beginning. Maybe we put one in, but we're doing 5 withdrawals to 1 positive. Yeah, nobody wants to live in a marriage like that. Nobody wants to live in a marriage where you're overdrawn. Nobody wants to live in a life where you're overdrawn. It's no different than our actual bank account, right? Who wants to live in the red all the time? No money, nothing to spend. You're constantly being hounded by the credit card companies. That's what it's like in our marriage when we don't pour into it. So guys, this is the challenge this week. This is your challenge. I want you to set an alarm, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that reminds you to make a love deposit into your marriage. If you're not married, no problem. This is where you learn. This is where you start. Set an alarm, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, to make a deposit into your relationships that you have. Send a text to your close friend that says, hey man, I'm really thankful for you. Hey, I really care for you. Maybe get a gift for your close friends. Let them know how you feel about them. Add value to that relationship and watch what happens to your life. Guys, thanks so much for listening. Actually, I want to let you know really quick before I sign off, Lauren and I have a marriage intensive that starts February 10th. If you are wanting to build a strong, healthy, connected marriage and you want to go deeper into some of these tools, you can go to Jason and LaurenVallotton.com and check out our marriage intensive there. Otherwise, I love you guys. Have an incredible week. Hey, BraveCo men. Hopefully you loved this week's episode. Listen, if you have not subscribed to our podcast, you are already behind. Go ahead and click right here to subscribe to our podcast. And if you have not watched last week's episode, you can click right here and watch last week's episode. And listen, if you want to upgrade your wardrobe, you can check out some of our new hats that we have in stock and all our other swag. Go to braveco.org and you can look at our store there. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.